It's been brought to my attention that you guys don't understand urinal etiquette. Now, if you're growing up, a big thing you have to realize is that you can't just piss where you want. You can't piss outside, you can't piss on playgrounds, and you can't piss next to somebody else. And so I'm here to teach you today urinal etiquette. A lot of you guys who watch the channel, you might be younger, so this might be your first time out in public, because since quarantine hit, you had 2 years that were very pivotal in your urinal development, taken away from you. So I'm here to essentially teach you and then reteach those who perhaps lost their urinal etiquette somewhere along the way. Now you may be asking yourself, what are my credentials? Why am I qualified to speak on this topic? Well, I'm not even kidding, but in college I actually won an award for the most poised bathroom user. I'll put it up right here. So now urinal etiquette, it's not something that I think is innately inside of all of us. It's something that we do have to learn. It's not something instinctually that we'll be able to know and carry out on, but I'm here to basically teach you guys the basics. Okay, so here's the test. Step right up and test your urinal etiquette. Given the circumstances, where would you pee? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves every time we see it. So this isn't the most standard setup, I'd say, for urinals. The 7 urinal setup is very rare. In fact, it's quite a blessing to even be taking this test because you very rarely see 7 urinals. But let's just assume I like playing on legendary mode because when you go out and there's just dividers, it makes the things very simple. But here we're thinking baseball stadium, we're thinking bar, we're thinking all places where there's just open urinals and nobody cares about anything. Okay, so here's the first question, and it says, which urinal should you pee in given somebody being in the 2nd and the 6th urinal? To be completely honest with you guys, when I see this stuff, it's just instinct for me at this point, but I do hope to teach you guys so then you could ultimately think like that. So I'll tell you off the bat, the answer is number 4. You want to go right in the middle. But the reason being is because there's actually a formula that I'll teach you guys that will help us a lot today, and that's shoulder width equals good. So as shoulder width expands and becomes more, that equals a good placement. So if you go in the middle, you very clearly have 1 urinal distance between everybody. If you go on either of the ends, you're automatically next to somebody, reducing the shoulder distance. And if you go in the 3rd or the 5th, again, you're going to be directly next to somebody. So just logically, this is going to be the middle one. So if you walk into a stall and you typically have something in the middle where the delta is essentially the same, equal to both people, you just take the middle. And look, that's exactly right. Now, I should have said this at the beginning, but if you're ever in a situation where you're unsure about where to pee, you should always just take the stall. A lot of people view peeing in the stall like you're curling in the squat rack, but just like curling in the squat rack, if you have the confidence and just go ahead and do it, nobody's going to question you. So let's move on here. Which urinal would you pee in? This one, again, you want to maximize shoulder distance. If we look at 1, 3, and 4, you're all going to be shoulders next to somebody. And so the only urinal where you're not going to be directly next to somebody is going to be the last one, or the 7th. So this one should be the 7th. I'd be very surprised if not. Good. So we got that right. Moving on. Number 3. Little tough if you had to. And again, I think they're noting if you had to, because there are situations where you just take the stall here. You just bail out and take the stall. It's completely fine. You're not a pussy because you use the stall. That's a very normal thing. But if you had to, again, think baseball game, think event, think concert, think bar. You're going to have to make a decision here. So what you want to do in this situation is you want to limit the damage done. So if you go, for example, in the 6th stall next to these 2 people, there's ultimate damage. You are shoulder to shoulder with 2 people. Splashback is inevitable on everybody. So you have to limit the effect you have on other people. And so by going to the 3rd one, yeah, you have a urinal buffer, which is good, but you do have 2 people to your left. If you go in the 4th one, on the other hand, you have a urinal buffer to the people to your left, and you only have 1 person next to you. So I think to limit the damage done, you're going to want to go right in the middle in the 4th one. And they agree with me as well. So let's move forward. Which urinal is most socially acceptable? Again, this is all about distance. We've seen this. We've been in this situation before. This is easy middle. I don't even have to explain this one. And that's right. You want to go right in the middle again. You have a good stall buffer between each, and that's perfect. Here, which urinal is the best PP option? If you remember the formula that I provided for you, more shoulder distance equals good. So just go all the way to the end, slide yourself. Yeah, you know, it's a bit of a hike. Nobody wants to walk into a bathroom and go to the 7th stall, but for the sake of your etiquette, you really should be doing this. So go to the 7th stall. That gives you a good 4 urinal buffer between this guy. And that's absolutely right. So this is actually interesting because they're saying you could even go to the 6th. I don't agree with that at all. I think it's actually kind of weird and a little sus if you go in the 6th stall. Why wouldn't you go to the 7th stall if it's open? Why would you choose the 6th? Why would you voluntarily decrease a urinal between you and the guy next to you? Where should you wee? I think these are freebies at this point because, again, the only stall where you have the most distance between both characters is the middle stall. If you go in the first, third, fifth, or seventh, you're going to be shoulder to shoulder with somebody. So let's take the middle stall here again. Looks like we're right. Again, we in the middle urinal. That's so important. If the middle urinal is open, it's usually the best one because it means you're kind of creating distance between the other people next to you. Okay, quick, make a snap decision. Okay, so in my head, I'm taking one of the ends. I'm taking one of the ends. If you take the third and if you take the fifth, you have somebody next to you on both sides. Whereas if you take the left or the right ones, you only have one person to the left or right of you and nobody else to your side. It's up to you if you want to do some walking. I think it's very courteous to take the one all the way to the right because if somebody else comes in, you're giving them a shorter distance. If somebody's like, think about it, bursting out of the bladder, they come running in, they have to use the bathroom much more than you do. You want to reduce the amount of distance to the urinal. Ultimately, it could be better for everyone too. You could reduce potential splashback or any sort of accident that could happen. So I think you should take the one all the way to the right, but if you really need to go, I would take the first one all the way to the left. So let's be a nice guy. Let's go all the way to the right. And look, they said you could take either one, but I think you should follow my judgment there. Gun to your head, where are you weeing? This is the last one. This is known to be one of the toughest ones you could do. This is a very common setup. You could sort of see this coming together here. So you have the guy, he probably starts off in the middle. Then you have this guy on the seventh come in. He takes all the way on the end. Then you have this guy who logically takes this one. And then you have this guy, the fourth guy, and he's like, you know what, where should I pee? Well, I guess it doesn't matter too much, so he takes that. So you're left as the fifth person with a very tough situation. I don't think it's super tough, though, because if you really think about it, you're not taking this one because you're shoulder to shoulder, and then you're down to the fifth and the sixth one. If you go in the fifth one, you're next to two people. If you go in the sixth one, you're just next to one. So you should probably go in the sixth one. And that's right. You want to go next to the least amount of people, and that's going to limit your exposure to splashback or anything else negative, even some peaks, which happen from time to time. Hopefully this is helpful to a few of you. If it's not, oh well. If it is, great. As you can see, I got an 8 out of 8, so hopefully this qualifies me just a little bit to answer the urinal etiquette type questions. If you have any further questions, if you've been in very tough situations that you don't know the answer to, just let me know in the comments. But otherwise, peace out.